Hello, welcome to the podcast. I'm John.
I'm Lizzie.
This is Harry Potter and the First Time Readers. You have finished the book. Can you tell me if you actually like it or not?
I love it. It got 100 times better in the second half.
Really?
Yeah. It's like a completely different book in the second half than the first half.
Yeah.
I love it.
So where did this rank on your list?
I would say probably first now.
Dang. You were so down in this book early on.
But it's more intense than Prisoner of Azkaban. So because of all that and just like the depth of the plot, like that makes it go up to first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It like builds the world, it lulls you into sleep halfway through because you're like, where is this even going? And then all of a sudden the last 10 chapters just are like rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
Get ready because all of them were like that.
I know.
28. Okay, so 28 is the maddest. We're going to start with 28. 28 is the maddest of Mr. Crouch. Do you remember anything about this chapter?
Yes, but I can't put it into words.
So this was a funny one because was it the previous podcast or just in text? I think it was a voice memo you sent because you were like, I hate Mr. Crouch, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about Crouch, but now I feel like knowing everything, it's hard to discern like where I was thinking what about him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was definitely confused. She got me in here with all these people, with Moody, Crouch. It was crazy.
Crouch Jr., it's good.
Jr. Yeah, Crouch Jr. is evil.
Yeah.
He's pure evil. I hate
But you
him.
were like, I love Moody so much. He's a great teacher, to be completely honest.
I know.
We're going to talk about that.
I'm intrigued to like meet who Moody actually is in the next book because obviously he was similar to his real personality if he was able to like.
Yeah, he pulled something off with that.
But man, I was like sobbing when Moody was possessed by Crouch. I was like, I loved Moody. He's bad now.
So this chapter was I gotta find actual, because sometimes I gotta refresh my memory on some of these chapters. The Madness of Mr. Crouch. Oh, this was funny.
He appears in the forest.
Yeah.
With Crumb and Harry.
Oh, okay. So yeah, this one was an interesting one. So this is when they go down to the kitchens. Winky's all there, and she's like drunk, and she's going crazy off butterbeer.
I didn't realize butterbeer was like alcoholic. Like, why are the kids drinking it? I thought it was just gonna be like root beer, and then Winky is like totally wasted. I was like, what is going on?
Part of me thinks that it's still like non-alcoholic, but it is like root beer, and maybe she gets like drunk on the sugar or something like that because she's a house elf and she can't take it.
Isn't Dobby like, oh, it's like more powerful for a house elf?
Yeah.
That was funny. No, because Harry said it's not that strong.
Yeah, it's not that strong.
It's
so
like 2%.
The amount of underage drinking in this is pretty wild. But I think people have said this on our podcast, or people have like explained this to me. In British culture, it's a lot less weird. Not just like underage drinking, but they just like parents are giving their kids stuff to drink all the time. But that was a funny little part. We'll talk about some things in that.
Yeah.
And then this was funny because in this chapter, Crumb and Harry are, wandering, talking about Hermione. And then all of a sudden they find an unconscious Mr. Crouch. Or Mr. Crouch, no, Mr. Crouch comes out of nowhere and starts like grilling them with, not questions, but seems weird and off.
Yeah.
And then Harry runs up. They come back and they realize that Crouch is gone and he attacked Crumb. I'll spoil a little bit of the movie. When you said that, when you texted me and you're like, Mr. Crouch is like so terrible, or you're like, Mr. Crouch is great and his son is so terrible, or what was the thing?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because no, this is a funny. I think you texted me and you were like, Mr. Crouch, I can't believe he did that to his son. He's so awful. He's so terrible. And in my head, I was like, does she not know Mr. Crouch is died? And in the movie, they portray it where he's dead at that point, where they walk into the forest and he's dead.
But he's like talking to them.
Yeah, he's talking to them in the books.
In the movies, that doesn't happen.
In the movies, it doesn't happen.
But that's a huge part of the plot.
I know. You just be ready for disappointment in this movie.
That's sad because this movie I'm the most excited about.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
They were going to make this movie into 2 movies, and then they ended up just smushing it into 1. There's lots of problems in this. They skip over half the plot. It's not great.
I had my suspicions, though, that Moody did something with Crouch in the woods. I was like, okay, Moody, where did he come from?
Mm-hmm.
He's here too fast. And he just said, oh, Snape told me. But I definitely thought that was suspicious. I did not expect the rest of the plot to be what it was. But that I was like, okay, I don't know about that. And then I definitely knew he was imperious, and he was barely, I felt like he was barely breaking through an imperious curse, and I was like, either he's talking to Voldemort in his mind somewhere, or he's actually present and talking to Harry. But yeah, it's really weird.
Even there's before that with Winky. I want to talk about Winky for a second. When Winky has this line where she says, "Master is trusting Winky with the most important, the most secret." And so she's drunk when she's saying this. But do you get that line now? What is Master trusting Winky with?
His son.
Yeah.
I didn't get that at that point. I just thought Winky. I kind of sweep Winky under the rug. I'm like, she's just. I don't know what she's talking about, but she doesn't know what she's talking about either. Because I was like, maybe the house elf just thinks any little fact about him is some big secret. But yeah, that is crazy. And that actually, I kind of hate Winky for that, because I get that she's just forced to do her job.
Yeah.
But I really hate Winky that she had to keep all this secret, and I don't know, she could have prevented some of the Dark Lord rising.
Yeah, I know. But house elves are just interesting in general. And she's a really interesting one. They're the most loyal creatures, I feel like, in the wizarding world. So judging them on, I guess, wizard or witch or human perspectives is tough. Because I think in their nature, they're just loyal. So even though it's not right or not correct, they're still loyal to certain people.
Yeah. They just have to absorb the morals of their master.
Yeah.
But Dobby broke free from that.
Yeah, Dobby is an anomaly. And they even talk about that in this chapter. Dobby's just different from all house elves.
Do you think Dobby knew what was going on with Winky?
No.
And that's why they were all buddy, and maybe he was like, come on, Winky, tell a lie, escape, get out.
Maybe Dobby's trying to coax Winky into being more like him.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dobby necessarily wants to do that. I think he's just kind of in his own world a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting one, though. You mentioned something in a previous podcast too with that was hilarious to me, because I think you were like, Rita needs to just become an animagus and become a fly.
I was so happy. She's a beetle.
Yeah, she's a beetle.
I was so close. But I was like, you really missed the opportunity with the mosquito thing, because it still is her name. But I was so close.
I know. That was a great prediction. That made me sweat a little bit. But that was hilarious because you kind of nailed it. Because in this whole book, you're like, how the heck does Rita know anything? And then all of a sudden it comes out that she is secretively a beetle. She passed the animagus test.
That felt a little obvious to me, though, just knowing that animagus exists. I was like, it has to be that.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know. I guess there could be other magic that you could invent. But I don't know. I didn't get what she was doing, talking to Malfoy outside, where they're like, oh, he has a walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was, but I don't know. It was interesting. And then Hermione just keeps her in the jar.
I know.
That's brutal.
That is one of the funniest things from book Hermione to movie Hermione. Movie Hermione has none of the insanity that book Hermione does.
Yeah.
Hermione is literally keeping her in a jar. The end of this, it's so ridiculous that she actually does that.
Hermione is pretty hard-headed. When she gets an idea, she just goes with it. And she'll push it really far, I feel like. But
In the trio, who's your favorite out of the trio?
right now, okay. Well, I feel like Harry probably, but I would say Hermione more than Ron. Like at this very moment.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like having favorites. I just everyone's in their own little thing. Categories.
What other do you have any other notes in this chapter? The Madness of Mr. Crouch?
I thought it was really like the way that Dumbledore communicated to Hagrid that he was in the forest. He like sent some blast of light into his cabin. I thought that was cool.
Okay, what was that?
I don't know, like a Patronus or something.
Okay.
Or because it wasn't Lumos.
No, it wasn't Lumos.
Is that like, should I know what that is at this point? Because it said like a silver thing.
Yeah. It says he raised his wand into the air and pointed it in the direction of Hagrid's cabin. Harry saw something silvery dart out of it and streak away through the trees like a ghostly bird.
A ghostly bird. Is it his... I don't know if you can just do a Patronus, but like if his Patronus is a phoenix, that would be cool. That's like the only bird that I could think of. I don't know. Because I think you need to be in danger. Well, does a Patronus only work on a Dementor? Like, is there other reasons to have a Patronus?
That's a great question. Why would there be other reasons to have a Patronus?
I don't know. To protect you? Like, can it just... If there's danger in front of you, can you just cast a Patronus and it just take away whatever danger? Or no, because in the maze, which is another thing.
Yeah, that was funny.
Dying.
I am sorry for gaslighting you, but this whole podcast will be me gaslighting you.
I know.
Thinking
I'm like
that you're
so skeptical of everything now. But he does a Patronus and it's a Bogart.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that across the board, in every situation, it doesn't work. But I don't know.
Harry was learning how to do Patronus on a Bogart, though. In book 3, but he didn't do it on a Dementor.
But it took the shape of a Dementor. Yeah,
but that's the same thing as the Bogart.
Maybe the Patronus sees what's in front of it and only works. I don't know. Because the only other thing that's silver that's coming out of wands right now is thoughts. And he's not just like...
he's casting, yeah. Like, how do you know that? His thoughts might take the shape of a phoenix. That'd actually be kind of cool.
Honestly, that would be sweet.
Yeah.
Spirit animal. But yeah, like, maybe he's just sending a little message where it's like telepathy, like my brain to yours.
That's kind of cool.
I don't know what that is. I don't think it's that meaningful, to be honest.
It is a cool bit of magic, though. There's parts of these books where you just don't see magic like you've ever seen it. And this is one of those where like he sends something out of his wand that's like a silvery, ghostly bird. You're like, what is going on there? The question is, what kind of magic is that?
I don't know. Will we find out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then it probably is important. The other thing that was really cute was when Hagrid realized that like Hermione and Crumb were together, he was like, you can't be doing that. Like he got all protective of Hermione, and I thought that was so sweet.
Yeah.
Because there's the one chapter where they're just like, what are we going to do today? And they just go to Hagrid's all day long. I'm just like, I love him so much.
Yeah, Hagrid is a lovely person in these books. I know you said you don't like favorites, but do you have a favorite person in the books?
Like out of everyone?
Yeah.
Sirius.
Still?
But, yeah, I still almost want to say Moody, even though I know it's not Moody. But I really like Moody. Yeah, I don't know. That would be like my only options. But I feel like Moody is not Moody, so I can't say that.
Yeah, it is pretty similar. So there's like a point to it where Crouch Jr. really, that's why he kept Moody around to like study his behaviors and study how he talked and study like what he was doing. So what you saw in Moody this book is, I feel like, really close to what Moody actually is like.
That's what I'm thinking.
So maybe he'll pop up in other books. So we'll see it. We'll see if he comes back, and we'll talk about him more if he does.
I think he is gonna come back.
Okay, chapter 29 is the dream, and in this chapter, Harry has a dream. So
Yep.
he preps for the third task,
You're a pro.
and then he essentially just has a dream. What is the dream about? I'm trying to
I don't
remember
know,
what the dream is
'cause
about.
I keep thinking of the dream that it's back to chapter 1 where he's seeing that, but I don't think it's that dream.
He dreams of flying on an owl into a house, inside of which Voldemort is reprimanding Wormtail for having made some mistake, noting that some unnamed he is dead and foretelling that he would soon have Harry.
Sirius sends a letter and he signs it as Sirius after being like, only call me Snuffles. It's like, hello? That was so dumb. And it honestly, I was like so aware of everything at this point that I was like, maybe it's not Sirius. Maybe like he broke the code and it's like, it's not him. But
yeah, if he ever spells his name or uses the name, that's when you
Yeah.
know it's not him.
exactly. But yeah, this was like, I'm assuming this part where Wormtail messed something up is when he had to kill Bertha.
Okay.
Is that right? Because like I finished the book,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the timeline is still like so foggy on this to
Yeah.
me. And I was looking that up a little bit because people were like, can this timeline actually be real? And did she just make a mistake and everything? But somebody said it could work, so I trust that Redditor.
This one I'm trying to remember this one. So he falls asleep in divination class. Ooh, okay. So there's a really weird note, not a weird note in this chapter, but kind of like a funny little line where it says, "Maybe he didn't want you to get there," said Ron quickly. "Maybe. Hang on. How fast do you think he could have reckoned? How fast do you reckon he could have gotten down to the forest? Do you reckon he could have beaten you and Dumbledore there? Unless he can turn himself into a bat or something," said Harry. So they're talking about Snape here, and they're seeing if Snape went down and was the one that attacked Crumb. Do you think that Snape's a bat?
He
Not really
feels like
question,
it.
but-
If he was an animal, that would be a good choice for him.
Do you think his Patronus is a bat? What do you think his Patronus is?
Yeah, honestly, a bat, something spooky. Probably like a snake. That
Really?
would be crazy.
Okay.
Something that feels dark. Like a dark
Interesting.
animal.
Okay. Like, what's a dark animal? Like a orca, a killer whale?
Can you imagine? No, I like the bat idea a lot. Because he's like kind of bat-like.
Okay.
He's always wearing dark robes, his greasy hair.
Why don't you like Bagman?
Well, I thought Bagman was gonna be the main like bad guy in this. So that I got really confused about because I remember saying, "Oh, I think Bagman is behind the whole Quidditch tournament thing and Imperious Winky," but then it's actually Crouch Jr. under a invisibility cloak.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
It gets really dark. I feel like that's so messed up to like Imperious your son, and then the whole potion that Voldemort makes.
I know.
Like it just drops off the cliff
I know.
at the second part.
I know.
It's wild.
I know. And that's why you get even more dark stuff in the next chapter. Because that's when most people really discover that they hate Crouch Sr. is in the next chapter, which is the pensive. Because he's like presiding over his son's trial and he looks like he's out for blood and he doesn't even have any compassion on his son. So that chapter, you're like, oh man, I feel so bad for Crouch Jr. And then at the end, you're like, I freaking hate this. I hate him.
I know.
I hate everyone in this book.
And then you're just kind of being like led by her writing. That's what I'm just like, is this like a real thing? Should I actually dislike these people? But yeah. In Sirius's letter, he says there's somebody highly dangerous at Hogwarts. It's clear to me they wanted you to stop Crouch from seeing Dumbledore, and you were probably feet away from them in the dark. You could have been killed. So does Sirius know who Moody actually is in this? Because Dumbledore doesn't know who Moody is.
Sirius doesn't either.
So I'm assuming Dumbledore and Sirius are having all these little side meetings because Dumbledore knows he's in Hogsmeade. And like they're communicating a lot, I guess.
Probably not a ton of side meetings, but they're probably having some, maybe to discuss certain things. We're sending letters in some way. That's an interesting one. I don't think it's like explicit that they're having a lot of meetings. They probably aren't like meeting a ton, but maybe sending some letters to each other. But not, the crazy thing is both of them were blindsided by this. Like Dumbledore, who is the greatest wizard of all time, is blindsided by the fact that Moody is Barty Crouch Jr. Like he didn't see that coming.
Crazy.
Yeah.
How does that even happen?
Because Barty Crouch Jr. is a great, he like covered all his bases with this. Like his magical prowess is impressive.
So is it when Moody can see through invisibility cloaks, is that a trait of Moody, or that's because Crouch is such a Crouch Jr. is such a powerful wizard? Because
that's a trait of his eye.
Okay. But he had his eye? Like, how does that work?
That's a great question.
He stabbed out his eyeball?
That's a great question.
That was crazy to me.
I know.
Because it said somewhere, it was like he took his leg and he took his eye.
My understanding would be when you take Polyjuice Potion, I guess one of your eyes just like goes into non-being. And when it's not, it pops back in. So there's probably like a gap. So he probably just takes Moody's eye and then pops it in and it works. It's pretty gross.
Washed it off.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Yeah, it was interesting to me how all of the people like Sirius, Dumbledore, McGonagall, like they don't actually know entirely what's happening either.
Yeah.
And they think they're being protective or they're being very prepared for all of this, but they really don't know what's happening either.
Yeah.
Like they're just going on whatever hunch they have.
Yeah. To be honest, that's like scary too, because they're going on whatever hunch they have. They have no real idea of what's going on. And they're all blindsided at the end of this, where they really like the whole tournament is a little crazy, but there's so much. I don't want to talk about who's responsible for Cedric's death, but that's like, it's like a tragic point where Cedric dies at the end not because like the teachers were irresponsible or anything like that, but because they just didn't see some of the signs that were happening. They just couldn't piece things together. To be honest, it's impossible probably to piece any of these things together, but I'm curious. Like after this book, not just after this book, but in all of Hogwarts, I feel like there should be an aptitude test for teachers. Like you drink Veritaserum or something like that, and like you have to swear an oath or something like that, just so we know that you're the legitimate person. Because Polyjuice is maybe not rampant, but like, how are they not double checking to make sure this teacher is actually the correct teacher?
I feel like the normal procedure in real life is more like stringent than these ones.
Yeah, we have so many more restrictions in our educational system than Hogwarts does. Hogwarts doesn't care.
Well, Dumbledore doesn't care.
Yeah, Dumbledore doesn't care. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. You should probably like look in the mirror and like tell us what you actually see, like what you actually want. Take some truth serum. Mm-hmm. Answer like a list of all these questions.
Like in the first book, all of a sudden, Quirrell, who used to never wear a turban, all of a sudden comes to school fully draped in a turban. Maybe it's insensitive, but you're like, can you undo that turban just so we can double check you're not confiscating anything into the castle? Oh, you're confiscating Lord Voldemort into the castle. Don't think you can teach this year. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I guess those aren't like necessarily plot holes, but it is just like, hello.
Yeah, for sure.
So obvious.
Yeah. Yep. Or like you have to just stay in a room for like 24 hours without any access to like drinking. You can't drink anything.
No,
so it's
hip flasks.
Yeah, no hip flasks for sure. Yeah. Because the school just seems massively irresponsible for letting this guy in.
Who like elected Dumbledore?
The school governors.
Is that's not the original like founders, right? There's like people.
There's
way
many years. Okay. Yeah, the original founders were years and years and years before that. So there's been tons of headmasters in between them, but the school governors are like the board of education or whatever. So Dumbledore was a professor there, and he taught. You know what he taught at Hogwarts?
No.
He taught Transfiguration.
Nice.
He's a great Transfiguration teacher, and he taught it for a while, and then he took up the post of headmaster after that. There's lots more involved in that, but we'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
Chapter 30. Anything else in chapter 29? Or we go to chapter 30?
So.
Chapter 30 is a juicy one. It's a really good one. It's the Pensive, where Harry sneaks some memories into the Pensive.
I love the pensive.
Yeah. I was waiting for this chapter so much because you were asking so many questions in the previous podcast about all these different people. And I'm like, just wait until this chapter. This is the one where you get a lot of information.
This is like the first big information dump, I feel like, that explains a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But I want a pensive so bad.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
That'd be the best thing ever.
So cool. But I don't like how, like, you see all these thoughts that Dumbledore has, but there's no actual conclusion, which kind of made me nervous because I was like, he has all these thoughts, but he's not even like piecing them together super well. And that kind of scared me because I was like, Dumbledore doesn't know what's happening either.
Yeah.
And then it comes back right at the end where all these things kind of intertwine and like Dumbledore's talking to Harry, but I was like, uh-oh. He doesn't even know. Like, he's just taking all these random ideas that he has.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, maybe that's something.
That is a great point. It is a little bit unnerving to know that Dumbledore doesn't really have a grasp on the situation. Because in the other books, he kind of does seem to have a grasp on the situation. Even though there's terrible things happening, he's like still in control and still at least knows some of the stuff that's going to happen. In this one, like in book 2, there's an example when someone asks a question about the Chamber of Secrets. And they are like, but who could it be that opened the chamber? And Dumbledore is like, the question isn't who, but how. And you're like, this dude knows everything that's going on. And he's just figuring out how Voldemort, Tom Riddle, opened the Chamber of Secrets. Like, he knows everything. In this one, he has these memories that are just out there. And you just don't know. He's not piecing them together yet. But these memories were so good. They're like such great information. Love this information in these.
Yeah, because it's the backstory to so many characters that you have no context for.
Yeah, like who?
Bagman.
Yeah, so what's Bagman's backstory?
So he, in his trial, he like goes free because everybody just like is applauding him and that he's cool and he's a Quidditch guy. Which I don't think that's right.
No, that's definitely not right.
He's a Death Eater. Or I guess he's a Death Eater. But that I hated. I was like, no way the general public is just like, this guy's cool. We'll let him go even though he's a Death Eater.
Well, he's not a Death Eater. But he did some dealings with people that he shouldn't have done dealings with.
What did he do?
What does it say in this chapter? What did Bagman do?
I think he was caught like too close to them or like caught up with them. The day Ludo Bagman joins us will be a sad day indeed for the ministry.
He gave information. Rookwood, who had been a friend of Ludo's father, had persuaded Ludo into giving him information. And he gave information about the ministry to the Death Eater. Yeah, he gave a ministry. He gave Rookwood information about the ministry. So he's just passing on information, and he doesn't necessarily know what he's doing, I guess. He's like a little bit of an oaf.
Do you believe that, though?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I just felt like he was playing dumb.
Yeah, I think so. I think to a part, but I think he just is dumb.
Okay.
Like, do you think that he is more conniving than this book is leading on? Like, because does he pop up in future books as someone who's like really dangerous?
Probably, I think. I think he definitely is trying to fly under the radar right now, and then later something's gonna happen where he has this like pivotal moment, and I don't know if he's gonna go to the dark side or not, but I just keep getting the impression that he's just glossing over everything, trying to sweep things under the rug. I don't like that. Because if you know that the person you're talking to is working for the Dark Lord, like, why are you talking to them? He's your friend. It's complicated, but I don't know.
That's the thing. I think there's complications. You know, it's not just, there's a line that pops up in the next book that I think is great, but the books don't really follow this line at all. It says the world's not split into good people and Death Eaters.
You've said that like so many times. I know,
because it's such a freaking great line. But I love that line for this moment too. It's like, Bagman, you know, some people are just idiots and they don't really know. Like, they have a friend and like the friend's asking them about questions, and the friend's shady, but you're like, this is my friend, so let me just like talk to them about some of the stuff that I saw. So he might just be completely dumb and innocent. He also could be really evil and conniving and could pop up as like the main assailant in the next few books. So we'll see.
Still don't know if to trust you or not. It's like he's gonna die on like chapter 1 of the next book.
So we learned about him. Who else did we learn about?
We learn what happened to Bertha, right? Is Bertha in here?
Did we learn about Bertha in this chapter?
The other main thing is the whole Crouch Jr. situation.
Yeah.
With his wife.
Yeah.
Or Crouch's wife and his son. And that is crazy.
Yeah.
Like knowing after the fact, like the later chapters of how that actually went down is really crazy. But for this whole trial, it's like, he just sends them away.
One thing that I love in these trials is the switch between people who are like uber righteous for justice. They are like everyone is gang mentality. And then another one where like it's Bagman's trial and everyone's lax and they all think he's really cool, so they don't care about like enacting what should be justice. They're like, oh, good luck in the Quidditch World Cup or whatever they say. They're like, this is great. They got like a celebrity here. But Crouch Jr., while he's terrible, he definitely falls on a time when everyone is just thirsty for, I guess, justice, or not necessarily justice, just revenge right here. Because it's like after the Dark Lord has gone away and these 4 people are on trial. These 4 terrible people are on trial. And Crouch just sends his son away, really without any like remorse or without any like second glance or second look or second thought or anything like that.
He renounces him basically. He's like, I have no son.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah. It's a very bad dad move.
Well, what would you do if you're a dad in that situation and you have to try your son? First of all, you shouldn't even have to try your son. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah.
But he actually thinks that his son is bad because there's something later on where he's like, oh, like my son has 12 owls or OWLs. And he's like proud of him.
Yeah.
But now he's just like completely is the opposite.
Yeah. It shows you how Bagman Sr. how Crouch Sr. just switches from one thing to the other. Like during Crouch's schooling years, he was a good student. He was getting out OWLs. He was like brilliant. And then at this point in the book, you don't know if he's good or bad. He seems like he's good, and his father's just like an insane person. But he seems to go to the dark side. He seems to be a follower of Voldemort. And then that's when his father like renounces him because his father doesn't want anything to do with that at all. But the crazy thing is you learn that his father's kind of like two-faced. And that he says he doesn't want anything to do with that. And like that's even he's talking to Moody, I think, about this in one of the chapters. Like, how the lengths that I've gone to eliminate people who are Death Eaters, and like I want nothing to do with them, and they're terrible. But he took his wife and swapped them in prison, and he was just hiding his son, which is a little crazy.
It's kind of like a psychological thriller horror movie type of thing to me. Like imprisoning your own son in some altered mental state in your basement, or not basement, but it feels like it would be in a basement.
Yeah, it feels like it would be, yeah.
Mentally, I'm picturing it in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like deeply disturbing how Crouch is just flip-flopping.
Yes.
But he's almost true to himself in a way, like unless if his wife didn't beg him to save his son, I don't know if like he would have gone back and changed that decision, you know?
Yeah, I don't think he would have, to be honest. I think it was just a time when everyone just was like, they wanted. There's one thing that crushes me in this chapter that I kind of love, but it crushes me, is that everyone who is trying these 4 people had a love of Frank and Alice Longbottom. Like those are 2 cool people, and they were all so furious that these 4 people had a part in driving Frank and Allison saying that they would do anything to destroy these people. So there's like part of me that I'm like, I would be right there along with them. Like Frank and Alice are the coolest. It's like, let's get these freaking dirtbags in prison. Yeah. But it's not justice. You can't like be angry about certain things like that and be the one that's enacting justice on someone. That's really revenge. So this is a revenge case other than a justice case.
That's a good point.
But dang, the depth that it gives to Neville, that's why it's one of my favorite chapters.
Yeah, that was painful.
Yeah.
Like, that broke my heart that he visits them and he loves his parents, and then
I know.
Does Moody give the book about is it gillyweed? What is it called?
Yeah.
He gives that to Cedric or to Neville?
To Neville.
Yeah, because that's when he's talking to Harry later and he's like, you're so like stuck up, you didn't even ask Neville for help. Like he would have helped you instantly.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
And that's definitely Harry's thing. He just he wants to do everything independently.
Yeah.
Oh, so this was the devastating part. He says, you know the trial you found me in, the one with Crouch's son? Well, were they talking about Neville's parents? Dumbledore gave Harry a very sharp look. Has Neville ever told you why he has been brought up by his grandmother? Harry shook his head, wondering as he did so, how he could have failed to ask Neville this in almost 4 years of knowing him. Yes, they were talking about Neville's parents, said Dumbledore. His father, Frank, was an Auror, just like Professor Moody. He and his wife were tortured for information about Voldemort's whereabouts after he lost his powers. As you heard. So they're dead? Said Harry quietly. No, said Dumbledore, his voice full of a bitterness Harry had never heard before. They are insane. They are both in St. Mungo's Hospital for magical maladies and injuries. I believe Neville visits them with his grandmother during the holidays. They do not recognize him. Harry sat there, horror-struck. He had never in 4 years, bothered to find out. Oh my gosh, that is so devastating.
I hate Harry for that.
You hate Harry for that.
He just is so in his own world. He doesn't ask anybody what's going on in there.
Okay, but is there a point where you want to let that kind of information, do you want to let a person divulge that information to you?
I wouldn't just straight up be like, where's your parents? But if you can tell that Neville is emotionally distraught a lot of the times and he's just like a different kind of kid, like he's obviously nervous and he's not like super skilled or like something's holding him back, there's other ways around that. You can get people's life story without straight up asking them. I know. But I don't know if a 13-year-old boy or whatever age he was at that time is going to be able to do that. And you just rereading that right now, that hospital in the next book, that's one of the chapter titles.
You're looking at the chapter titles in the next book?
Yeah, I started reading the I'm only on chapter 2. Okay. But now I'm curious. I'm like, are they going to meet his parents or something? 'Cause, I mean, I guess there's hundreds of people in the hospital, but the fact that it's mentioned just makes me wonder.
Interesting. It's that's where Dudley went in book 1 to get his tail removed.
Is it a wizarding hospital?
Yeah.
So where is that located?
Somewhere in London.
And there's no muggles in it? Are there usually?
No, usually not. It's just but I guess if a muggle gets inflicted with something, they probably bring him there. It's actually cool. There's cool lore around that. We'll talk about that when you get to that chapter that
I think it's really far in the book.
Yeah. It is. But we'll get there eventually.
I'll read fast.
I know. But yeah, these trials are devastating. They're interesting. We have one with Karkaroff too, where he's trying to give information so he can be set free. But you like the idea of the pensive?
I do. I think you should keep it locked up. But yeah, I could use that for sure. I feel like he says it's excessive thoughts that you put in there. Like he says something like that. But how do you get a pensive? Like, did he invent that for himself?
I don't think he invented that for himself.
Just buy it from the store?
Maybe, yeah. Probably really expensive though. It definitely has to have some ancient kind of magic attached to it. It's not just like, a basin. It's not just like a bowl. I can put my memories in my bowl and just keep my bowl like locked away.
Maybe they have like a cheaper version.
That's what it is.
You can buy the upgraded version. Able to hold 10 thoughts or 50 thoughts.
It has memory limits.
Yeah.
Literally like a computer. They're like disk drives. You can buy a 32 gigabyte memory drive or a 64 gigabyte memory drive.
Exactly.
It's so funny. Anything else in this chapter that you like that you want to talk about before we go to the next?
I don't know. I feel like we touched on all of it.
Yeah. The Oh,
here's a line from Dumbledore that I like a lot. Curiosity is not a sin, he said, but we should exercise caution with our curiosity. Yes, indeed. And for the man who doesn't like to give good answers to people's curiosity, it just, I don't know. He's not telling him to not be curious, but he's kind of inhibiting his free curiosity, which I feel like is just like a pre-planned way to avoid giving good answers to Harry later on.
Yeah, for sure.
So
he does skirt the issue with a lot of different things. So there's also another line that we didn't mention, but they talk about Dumbledore's hatred of Dementors here, which that's a whole different issue.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Dementors.
Where he says, Dumbledore, Moody says, let's hear this information, I say, and throw him straight back to the Dementors. Dumbledore made a small noise of dissent through his long, crooked nose. I was forgetting. You don't like Dementors, do you, Albus? Said Moody with a sardonic smile. No, said Dumbledore calmly. I'm afraid I don't. I have long felt the Ministry is wrong to ally itself with such creatures.
What do you think about that?
I think Dumbledore is wrong.
So you think the Ministry should?
No, actually, so I kind of think he's right about that, but I don't like how he says with such creatures. Like,
why are you standing up for the Dementors?
Yeah, standing up for the Dementors. You look at the thing that you've created.
Yeah, this is terrible. I'm so intrigued, though. Yeah. Keep going.
I think, Dementors are not like, great. I definitely want to avoid Dementors in my life. They are just creatures. Like, much like I want to avoid lions in my life. I would love to see a lion from far off, but I don't want to, be eaten by a lion or like a bear.
But if you were eaten, you can't blame them.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Exactly. If you were, you can't blame them. So the fact of the Ministry allying itself with creatures seems strange to me. I don't necessarily think it should ally itself with any creatures, if I'm being completely honest. I think all creatures should have autonomy, and there should be like a society where there might be relationships with each of them, like the goblins kind of controlling the bank and the money. That seems fine. That's like they're controlling one thing, their side of things, but they're not like under wizards. House elves seem a little too subservient to wizards, which I don't like. I'm definitely going to be part of SPEW, the House Elf Liberation Front. But Dementors, it seems like the Ministry is using Dementors for what they want from it. I guess there is like a I don't know. I think you mentioned this a while ago. It seems maybe like it could actually work because they're controlling Dementors for where they can feed and what they can feed on. It's not just like they're roaming throughout, being able to, feed on anyone. But it just seems strange. It seems like corruption can happen at any moment right there.
So why do you think Dumbledore has always hated Dementors?
That's a question I've never thought about before.
Because it could be something that he was just brought up with, like that mindset.
Yeah, for sure.
But for Dumbledore, who is a very open-minded person, to not like them, I feel like he would have almost explored that side of like, oh, what are the ethics of like, why do we hate Dementors? But he still doesn't like them. Because my thing is that because he is the guy for second chances and standing up for people, he doesn't like how like restrictive and just like black and white the Dementors are. But I don't know, I feel like there could be a longer history of why he doesn't like them. Like, did they take somebody from his life?
Yeah, maybe we'll get that.
Do we get that? Is that a thing?
You should know by now. I'm not going to give you any answers.
Okay. I'll just stare. I'll find the truth.
There's something that we learn about in the next book, which is called legitimacy and occlumency. We'll get there when we get there. But it's reading someone's mind and being able to block out someone else from reading your mind. So legitimacy is the ability to read someone's mind, and occlumency is the ability to shut someone out from reading your mind. So I am a very good occlument. I can shut you out from reading my mind.
Okay, nice. I have to learn legitimacy then. Yeah, maybe now that I said that, I feel like Dumbledore probably something happened with him. Like the Dementors killed somebody. His
backstory is going to be really fascinating if we ever get his backstory. Does he have any siblings?
Yes.
Who?
That guy.
The goat guy?
What's his name?
Aberforth.
That's the only one that I remember.
Yeah. I think we talked about last podcast too, how... or no, I don't know if we talked about this last podcast. I think we talked about this. I was talking about this on a movie that I was watching. His relationship with Aberforth seems strange because he talks about his brother's affinity with goats, and I feel like that's a lie. I feel like he's not right on that, and we'll talk about that as we go on because there's more to it. But I just don't think he likes his brother very much, and he has issues with his brother, and he's just doing what an older brother does, like making fun of their brother in small little jabs and small little ways. We will talk about that way more when we get there.
Okay.
But all right, chapter 31 is the third task.
The maze.
That was so funny.
I was dying. I read that and it was just like these little tiny bushes in the Quidditch field, and I was like, no way. And then somebody was like, oh, they'll be like 10 feet high in a month. And I was like reading my book on my lap, and I was just like, and I just like did that. It's like, I can't believe this. And then I just started dying laughing because this whole, like, I guess 2 episodes maybe.
Yeah.
You were gaslighting me so hard about this. And I think you fully got me to doubt myself because I was like, it's probably like 10 other different movies that
you thought
aren't
it was
this.
How to Train Your Dragon?
Yeah. Like, why would you?
Because how much more satisfying was it that you figured it out yourself, that I didn't say, oh yeah, there's a maze in it, so you're excited for the maze that happens. You just got the joy of self-discovery.
I was so on top of it though, because it is a maze. It is the obstacles throughout the maze.
You nailed it.
But yeah, I was like thinking about people listening to this. It's like, everyone is gonna be dying laughing at me, or just like, wow, she was really dumb. Like,
no one's gonna think that at all.
It's funny.
I think it's more like it's fun to see your mind track on some things that you remember, but you're really reliving this book for the first time because you don't remember a ton of it.
Yeah.
Like you remember a lot of the core of it, but still, it's like.
And then you showed me the chapter art too, and you're like, oh, like that's helpful maybe. I'm looking at this lion lady. I'm like, what? Yeah. This is not what I remember.
And I was like, could you imagine? I think I said during that where I was like, could you imagine if they like, made a, like a hedge of mazes and you got to chase a dragon throughout it? I was like literally giving you half the plot of this, but just so making it sound ridiculous.
Yeah. And it does. It's like the more you talk about it, almost, I just like doubt myself more and more. So I'm like, okay, he's read this like 15 times. I'm probably making no sense. People are listening to this, but no.
Meanwhile, sorry, I was gaslighting you.
Either I feel like now my theories are going to be a lot crazier and I'm going to be like more bold to be like on top of my theories. And own it because like maybe I am right.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna just doubt myself because already like 5 times in this podcast I'm like, wait, are you lying to me? Like every time you laugh you're like, maybe
yeah,
okay,
maybe.
But yeah,
you're not gonna, you won't trust me at all. And at the very end when you have a great reading experience, then we get to go into Lord of the Rings not really knowing anything that happens in that together.
Yeah.
And then we can trust each other.
We can trust each other. The theories. We've both seen the movies.
I know for sure, but there's still more that happens in the books.
That is so funny. Yeah, I can trust you fully at some point in life.
You can trust me. You just can't trust me with the podcast.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I do. I trust you with a lot of information. I trust you with too much information.
Good.
Anyways, they do this whole maze thing.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be protected by McGonagall, Moody, other people around the outside of the maze. Crumb.
Because you text me too.
Yeah, you almost like tripped up on that, I think.
Yes.
And then that definitely like clicked in my mind because I texted you and I was like, in the middle of the chapter, I think, I don't know. But I was like, yeah, Crumb is cheating. And you're like, Crumb's cheating? And I was like, yeah, he like did something to Cedric. Like, you don't think that's cheating? And you're like, oh yeah, 100%. And then I was like,
Dang it.
But
there's something in that chapter that doesn't it say like his eyes like where it didn't look normal? So you definitely, I think it's like
Crumb's eyes?
Yeah.
I don't know. If you're gonna use an unforgivable curse, I would think you're looking a little crazy.
That's
like,
true.
Emotional. I don't know. But yeah, that was kind of funny. So you did mess up a little bit.
I know.
Okay. Oh well.
Won't happen again. Don't worry.
Maybe I can get you to trip up over text more than I can get you to trip up over the podcast.
Now I'm gonna be super cognizant of it. Anything that you send, I'm gonna like reread the entire book and be like, wait, what can I say and what can I say? There is a really lovely note right before they're about to do this chapter. These people, or they have like this meet and greet with the family, and Harry doesn't really want to go because he's like, no one's gonna show up for me. And then Cedric, he pops his head out of the door and he's like, hey, come on, you got people waiting for you. And he thinks it's the Dursleys for a hot second, and then he realizes that it's the Weasleys, which is
they're so nice.
They're the best.
He needs them so badly.
I know.
I'm
seriously.
so glad that they just adopted him into the family.
Me too. They're so great. They're so great for him.
And especially the fact that they are like well versed in the wizarding world. It's nice that he has like a good wizarding family too. Because if he just had like Hermione's parents, that would be totally different. Like they're accepting of Hermione, but they're muggles. But to have the Weasleys who like know all this stuff and have the history at Hogwarts and stuff, then it's just like he fully gets embedded into the wizarding world more.
It's so helpful for him because he can bounce so many different things off on them and like try to figure certain things out. And Ron really is like his real introduction into the wizarding world when he's on the train, and Ron gives him like the details and the download of all these like little bits of information. Ron's a good they're such a good family for him. Makes me so happy that Mrs. Weasley showed up. Oh, I love this.
Yeah, and that Dumbledore let them come too.
I know. Yeah,
it's like the plus ones.
I know. This is when we find out Crumb is torturing Cedric in the maze, which is crazy. What do you think about the unforgivable curses?
Like, what do you mean? What do I think about them?
Do you think that all of them are unforgivable? Do you think that one is worse than the other ones?
I would say probably. Well, no, because you called me up on this once because I was gonna say death is worse, but I think imperiousing someone and like living their life for them, like you can cause so much more damage to more people if you're just like imperiousing someone than if you just kill someone. And killing someone, like, but if you're imperiousing someone, you could like wreck whole families. You could wreck whole like, I don't know, like whatever their job is. Like if you imperious someone at the ministry, you could destroy the ministry, you know?
Wow.
That's where I'm feeling like if people have been imperious in the past and the present at this point, definitely people in the future are going to be imperious. And I'm just like, there's no way to trust anyone.
Yeah.
So it's good that it's illegal, but there's also really no like tracking on it either.
Yeah.
Because you would think if it could be tracked like that, it would be it would be tracked at the Ministry and it would be tracked at Hogwarts, which is like the two hubs of the Wizarding world. But it's not. So imagine where else it's going unchecked. Because if you kill someone, it's a finite end. Like, you're gonna know.
Yep.
But Imperius goes unnoticed. And then what's the other one? Is Crucio the torture? Yeah. That's bad, but that's temporary. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's bad, but like, you definitely know someone has issues if they're doing the Cruciatus Curse for so long that a person goes insane from it. That's the worst of the offenses, I think. The worst use of an unforgivable curse.
Worst?
No, that's the worst use of it. Crucio is probably the easiest if you're just using it for like in a period of time. But if you're using it for so long, the person, their mind becomes addled and they don't remember who they are. I think that leaps itself into the worst. I think that's worse than killing someone.
Yeah.
I also think that's worse than like controlling someone. But I think the Imperius Curse is pretty wickedly dark. I think it's darker than a lot of other people think it's dark. Because I think there's something in it where, like, you know, if someone's good and they use the Imperius Curse, yeah, you could use it to like for kind of like things that you need, but no one who's really good is using the Imperius Curse all that much. Like, do you ever think that Harry, Ron, or Hermione would ever use the Imperius Curse?
No, not really. Like, especially if you can polyjuice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know. So if any of them are using it, it just seems strange. But like, I guess Dumbledore could use it, and maybe his motives would be a little bit better. But he's one of those people who thinks he's above the law. So like, would it really be good? So that one just has a lot of darkness to it. But they're all dark. They're all pretty wicked and evil. It's crazy that someone was Imperious. Like Crumb was Imperious in this, and he was using the Cruciatus Curse on other people. That's wild.
Yeah.
Man.
I feel like I almost am surprised that they're illegal in the world or like unforgivable. Because I would think with all that power that wizards have, it would kind of just be like part of life. You got to live with that. People can hurt you. And I don't know, like, you would learn how to defend yourself from that, I guess. So it's surprising to me that they kind of like put restrictions on that.
Yeah. Yeah. The unforgivable curses are interesting. We will continue to talk about those because they will pop up in other parts of the books. But yeah, they're funky. What was your favorite one of the maze tasks that they had to do? What do you like the most?
I thought it was cool when he tried to use his Patronus because he was like, I got this.
Yeah.
And then he didn't have it. But the little Sphinx thing, that was cracking me up. That was really funny.
Yeah. Did you try to take time and like guess what the riddle was?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you get it?
No. I gave up after like 45 seconds. It's like, man, I've been doing this forever. I was surprised that he got it. It didn't make sense to me though. Like, I was trying to work it out. I almost Googled it, but I was not done with the book yet. So I was like, not going to do it. But I don't know. What were the other things in the maze that he
So there were blast-ended Scroots, huge ones that Harry had to deal with. There were... the Sphinx was in it. The Boggart was in it.
So just the ones that I just said.
I'm trying to think of, there wasn't a ton. There was
because Moody was knocking them out for him, apparently.
Yeah. So Harry didn't encounter a ton. He encountered a few different things. He encountered the spiders, I think, but the spiders were in it. Were they in it?
Yeah. The spider was right after the Sphinx, and that's when he got injured. And then him and Cedric decided to grab it at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything about Crumb's eyes looking crazy.
I guess that's just movie. Some of the stuff from the movie just goes into my head. In the movie, he has like completely whitened eyes, pretty much. It's a little creepy. So you definitely know something weird is going on.
Probably they do that to signal like the Imperious. This was the first time that Harry was actually prepared for something in his life, I feel like. Every other task, he was just on a whim or just going with what other people said, but he actually knew what to do here, which was kind of refreshing.
I know,
Like,
finally.
he's just not an idiot for once in his life.
Yep. The second task would have been hilarious to see that. Him just swimming on the surface of the lake, like bobbing his head up and down, trying to look for, because he was literally going to that task. No idea what he was going to do.
Yeah.
Until Dobby saves the day.
And there's nothing you could have done either. Like,
I know.
You can't swim that far.
Yep.
So I was like, good. His education is paying off. He knows what to do. And he was like actually caring about other people too a little bit, because he was like, oh, is Fleur okay?
Yeah.
And then Fleur like died or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that. And then he ran for Cedric. Like, he ran through the hedge to get him. So I was like, okay, good. Harry's doing okay. I'm supporting this.
Do you think you would have gone through the maze?
Yeah.
You're like, it was easy. You're like, I spent 45 seconds on that riddle and I couldn't do it, but the rest of this would be easy.
Yeah, if I was a little more patient. I think I probably could have. I don't know if I would win, but I'm a very competitive person. I can do well under pressure. I feel like I'd be good.
Yeah.
If I was here in Hogwarts and I was of age, I would probably try for the Triwizard Cup. Or is it the cup? Is it the tournament?
Yeah, Triwizard Cup, yeah.
Would you do it?
Or it's a Goblet of Fire, but Triwizard tournament. Yeah, for sure. I would definitely do it.
Would you win?
I would hate the second task. Cold water. You'd be in it because you're like cold plunges. I'm like,
hello, fishies.
Yeah, exactly. You're like my people.
Yeah.
Swimming around. I would love the first task. The first task would be fun for me. Second task I would hate. Third task would be great. I would love the third task. Like, I love the idea of like unexpected things that kind of pop up at you every once in a while. But the Sphinx is pretty dangerous. The Sphinx is like, people don't realize how dangerous of a being this thing is, of a creature, of a beast.
Did I ask you this? Who would be your person at the bottom of the lake?
Ooh, great question.
In the second task, assuming it has to be a person.
Yeah.
Who would it be?
Probably my niece.
Oh, that's tragic.
Why is that tragic?
She's just sitting at the bottom of the lake.
Yeah. You get to go rescue her. Yeah, it'd probably be her. Or Wes would be down there. No.
Sleeping Wes.
Oh.
Yeah, it'd just be cute. Like everybody's pets.
Yeah. And everyone would go feral over that. They'd be like, I have to get my pet. Yeah. I don't care about a human. Let me get my pet.
That'd be funny.
Who would it be for you?
I don't know. Probably like one of my family members.
Yeah.
I don't know who.
Yeah.
Depends on the day. Maybe like one of my cousins, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Be fun.
That's cool. That's a great question.
Did you find the Sphinx's thing? Because I have her little riddle.
Oh, yeah. Like, say it to me. I don't know what the answer is. I forgot what the answer is.
You already we mentioned the answer like 3 times. First, think of the person who lives in disguise, who deals in secrets and tells naught but lies. Next, tell me what's always the last thing to mend, the middle of middle and end of end. End of the end. And finally, give me the sound often heard during the search for a hard-to-find word. Now string them together and answer me this. Which creature would you be unwilling to kiss? Look how good I can read when the room is bright.
I know, it's great.
Not, like, struggling to see.
What are these words?
Yeah. I was confused when she kept saying, like, what's the last thing to mend in the middle of middle and end of end? What is that? How is that a spider? Like, what part of...
D. The end of end. It's like a crossword clue. End of end.
The end of end.
E-N-D.
Oh, in the middle of middle.
In the middle of middle. D's are in the middle of middle. And D's are at the end of end.
Because I was like, obviously he doesn't want to kiss a Dementor.
Yeah, that's what everyone's first thought is. It's a Dementor. I
feel like I also don't say
Yeah, it's a British thing. Everyone says we say a spider.
A spider. From Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he goes, "Thanks," said Harry, and amazed at his own brilliance, he dashed forward. answers one thing right.
I know, right?
That's
Yeah. Every one of the other objects is being moved out of his way, and Harry's like, "I'm so good at magic. This is great. No one can touch me."
And that's such like a Hermione task too. He was
I
like,
know.
I need Hermione.
I know. But it was great at the end when he goes, "I was the only one who was thick enough to take that song seriously," said Harry bitterly. "Just take the cup." "No," said Cedric. He stepped over the spider's tangled legs to join Harry, who stared at him. Cedric was serious. He was walking away from the sort of glory Hufflepuff House haven't had in centuries. What do you think of Cedric?
I really like Cedric.
Yeah.
Nothing has ever, like, there's never been a time where I'm just like, oh, I don't like Cedric. He just kind of gets better and better. And he's a side character, but he still develops. And I don't know. He's just a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's just genuinely a nice person.
He's a genuinely great person, yeah.
It's like, stop being so noble.
I know, seriously.
Yeah.
And he's like literally walking away from it. It's like one thing to say, you know, oh, like you take it and just stay right next to it. Like, hopefully he'll say, no, you take it and I'll take it. He says you take it and he literally is walking away. Like he doesn't intend to take it.
Yeah.
And like everything that would mean for his family, for his house. Oh man, Cedric is such a great person. I love Cedric so much.
And it's interesting the fact that Harry's still underage and like claims that he didn't put his name in too. And I feel like at this point Cedric is just like, you know, it is what it is.
I know.
But I don't like, I'm kind of surprised that he would give it up to Harry. Like, I guess I don't fully understand his decision. Like, I don't know. Because why didn't he take it? He just didn't take it because Harry was helping him with the tasks.
This is funny because to me, this is like...
What?
Because I'm just a Hufflepuff. This just makes more sense to me. And I don't necessarily know how to explain it. It's not really out of nobility that you would do this. It's out of what you think is the greater form of victory. So it's not really altruistic. I think the reason that Cedric is doing this, I think that he is gaining some kind of greater self-satisfaction based on passing the cup off to someone else. In his head, he knows he really won. And that's all Cedric really needs for Cedric's sake. For his dad, he wants that cup. He wants eternal glory. He wants 1,000 galleons. For Hufflepuff House, they want that. They want the glory for it. But I think everyone in Hufflepuff House would still see this happen. And then Cedric would tell this tale later. And it would be everyone in Hufflepuff House would be like so proud of the decision that Cedric made. Because it simultaneously shows that Hufflepuff House really deserved to win that. Where secretively, all of Hufflepuff House has a legend about this Triwizard Tournament being like, you know, Harry Potter won it, but Cedric, like, he won it, and not only did he win it, he was actually noble enough to let Harry have this by himself. That is like a Hufflepuff through and through. If I were to define what a Hufflepuff is, that is it. Like, and it's not necessarily out of like Cedric's not really doing it out of that. I think Cedric is genuinely doing it out of being a upstanding, lovely human being. Like, he's doing this because he's not self-defacing, but he's just like, I just don't think this thing has the value for him that being a good person and letting someone else win this has more value to Cedric than winning this thing for his family and for his house. And that is a true Hufflepuff.
Yeah, like he's sticking to his values.
Yes.
Above any other rating that society's giving him.
And I love that.
That's crazy. Thank you for explaining that.
It was good. To a Slytherin. You're like, why wouldn't you want that?
Yeah.
Ambition. Come on.
No, I do not. After finishing this book, I do not want to be a Slytherin anymore. Get me out. Retake that quiz.
No, Slytherins are great. Don't worry. Slytherins are great.
No, they're not. They're so mean.
All right. Well, let's wrap these up. We'll do the next 6 chapters because the next 6 are a unit, but it's a good end right here. So, who is your favorite character in these 4?
Harry Potter.
It's really just Harry, kind of. Like, Harry is pretty much it. So,
yeah.
I'm going to say something different. I'm going to say Mrs. Weasley for showing up for him. I love that so much. That she's such a mother to even him. I just think that's great. Who's a hot tamale?
Cedric.
Yes.
That was a good.
It's an easy one.
Yeah.
It's an easy one.
Yep.
Cedric is it. And what's your favorite moment in these?
I don't know. I have no answer. I can't.
The Sphinx.
Not the Sphinx. Can my favorite moment be realizing that you gaslit me so hard?
Yeah, it's
That
meta.
was my favorite moment. Literally just the line, the maze.
Yeah.
That was my favorite moment.
That's a great moment. I love that. It's a good moment. Mine was probably the pensive moments. Like all the memories in the pensive, I think are so good, and they bring so much light to different characters, especially Neville, who I love dearly. I love him. Well, thanks for joining us on our journey of Harry Potter and the First Time Readers. Second time reader.
See ya.